let's get to it. So, good day everyone. Welcome, welcome. Hello to YouTube as well. And today, I'm finally doing it. A lot of people have been asking me about Ritual Beast and Master Duel, and asking me about specific combos and like specific setups. Basically, so what I'm going to show today is basically just like an introduction to Ritual Beast. What Ritual Beast is, what they're capable of doing, some tech cards that you want to be playing, some things you might want to try to avoid, and most importantly, Winda. Also combos. Combos are pretty important too. So we'll go over a few combos, not too many, and we'll try and keep it relatively brief. But for the time being now, let's just get straight to it, and let's discuss the Ritual Beast cards and what Ritual Beast is. So what is Ritual Beast? Ritual Beast is a deck, successors to the Gusto tribe, which are based around Ritual Beast Tamers and Spiritual Beast monsters. And what they do is you use them to use the contact fuse mechanic to go into powerful fusion monsters that'll either aid you to your victory, either through setting up through combos, allowing you to set up your board, or setting on defensively, or being aggressively. So there's three main fusion monsters, but we'll go over them when we get to the extra deck. Plus an additional boss monster fusion and a link monster that helps support them as well. So first things first, let's talk about the Ritual Beast Tamers. So first up, one of the most important cards to the deck, Ritual Beast Tamer Elder. You will be playing 3 copies, no less, no more because you're not allowed to. If you could, you would. 3 copies of Ritual Beast Tamer Elder. This is mandatory. It is your best normal summon in the entire deck because it allows you to set up your combos, assuming you open another Spiritual Beast monster. So, what it does is after you normal summon this card, you can normal summon 1 Ritual Beast monster during your main phase's turn in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. So, multiple Elders do not stack. However, one big thing about Ritual Beast Tamer Elder is that its summon does not start a chain. When it is normal summoned, after it is normal summoned, the effect has already started to apply. Which means that if your opponent chains to the activation with like Infinite Impermanence or Widow Anchor or anything that would normally negate the Elder is still a valid target for it, but the effect will not be negated because it's a continuous lingering effect, a condition that's placed on the player yourself that grants you an additional normal summon of a Ritual Beast monster. So if they imperm it or perfect failure or whatever, it goes to waste. The effect is not stopped. The only way you can stop Elder's effect from happening is by negating the summon entirely with like Solemn Judgment, for example, or if there's already like a face-up continuous negation in play, such as Skill Drain or Destiny Hero Plasma, anything that's like that's already face-up and active, that will stop Elder's effect from happening. But if the opponent chains Skill Drain to the Elder summon, it's too late. You have that effect as soon as it's immediately summoned. You can strike Elder though? Yes, because you can negate the summon. That is what Strike would be doing. So, very important card here, your main combo starter. You're going to be trying to find it as often as possible because it's going to lead to your best boards and setups. Next up, some of the other Tamers that we play. 1 copy of Laura. This is a one-of because we do have another copy of another Ritual Beast in the deck that is pretty much the same effect, just slightly different variations of what it does and just based off the mechanic wise. But you play 1 copy of Laura. It's to help search. You search it during your combo so that you can extend and end on a better board. Also, it's a decent follow-up to search on top of it. So 1 copy of Laura is all you really need for the deck. And then on top of that, we have 1 copy of Palika. Oh, so let me explain what they both do, by the way. So when they are normal summoned, when Laura is normal summoned, you can target a Ritual Beast monster in your graveyard, special summon it. And all the Tamers, by the way, all the Tamers have this condition that they can only be special summoned once per turn. This is to prevent like infinite loops from happening and like actually breaking the game. So one thing to keep in mind is all of the main deck Ritual Beast monsters can only be special summoned once per turn. So Laura on summon revives a Ritual Beast monster from your graveyard. This cannot revive fusions. Keep that in mind, because pretty much all of the fusion monsters say that they must be special summoned from the extra deck by banished cards you control and cannot be summoned other ways, which means you cannot revive them with Laura or Palika. However, you can revive an Ulticumen Falcos if the Ulticumen Falcos was properly link summoned, and we'll get to that more later. So, Laura, good one of. Palika, also a good one of. It pretty much does the exact same effect as Laura does. So when there's normal summon or pendulum summoned, you can target one Ritual Beast or Zephyr monster in your graveyard, except Palika, special summon it, but destroy it during the end phase. So small differences here between Laura and Palika is that the monster Palika brings back will get destroyed during the end phase. So if your plan was to revive a Winda and like sit on the Winda, that's not going to work because Winda's going to get destroyed. You're not going to get her effect. So you generally want to be able to fuse off. Another thing too is she's a pendulum monster, which means if she would be sent to the graveyard, barring any other banish effects like Macrocosmos or Dimension Shifter, if she would be sent to the graveyard, she goes face up to the extra deck instead. So what this means is it can potentially affect how you do your combo setups. Like if she's destroyed, she'll go to the extra deck, meaning you might not be able to ambush back, or you might not have a live tamer banished for the search and tag out effect, which we'll get to that too. The Kanahawk combo, basically what your setup is. If you use her for a contact fusion, she will get banished, which is one thing that's great. So she'll be banished, you'll be able to do your combo normally. If she's sent to the graveyard, she'll go to the face-up extra deck instead. So this is if you link it off, for example, if it's destroyed, it'll go to the face-up to the extra deck. Now that'll also allow an interesting combo with another main deck monster, or a little bit of synergy later on. But for next Ritual Beast, we'll talk about one copy of Ritual Beast Tamer Wynn. She is pivotal to a lot of your combo setups regarding that are involving Dimension Shifter, Macrocosmos, Deep Fissure, any of the global banisher effects. You need her for these combos, and she's also just an additional name, a tamer name, and the effect of summoning from the banish pile is relevant enough. It's relevant enough because it's a 1 of 40 cards, it's searchable. All the Ritual Beast monsters are searchable, all the Ritual Beast cards are searchable throughout the Kanahawk. So it's a good one card to have for versatility, and it is a must-have for setting up combo plays regarding Dimension Fissure, Dimensional Shifter, stuff like that. So yeah, very good one of. Ritual Beast Tamer Zephyr Wendy. When we're mostly talking about a pure build here, right? So in a pure build, you do not play this card because it does not do anything in the deck. It's a vanilla monster in a pure Ritual Beast deck because it only affects stuff in the Pendulum Zone, and it affects Zephyr monsters, which you aren't really playing outside of Zephyr and Palika, but you're not really pendulum summoning in this build of Ritual Beast. There are Zephyr builds out there, which are fine as well. I think they're a little bit clunky, but that is another option, another variant of Ritual Beast you can play as a Zephyr package. However, we're just going to be talking about the pure build for today, so you're not going to play any copies of Zephyr Wendy here. Let's move on to the spiritual beasts. So, very important, just like Elder, 3 copies of Kanahawk. You play 3 copies, always. Once per turn, you can banish one Ritual Beast card from your deck. It's any card. It can be your steeds or your ambushes, but most of the time you're just banishing monsters because it fits the combos and you're not really trying to set up for 2 turns later with Kanahawk. You're trying to want to get your combo set up as soon as possible. So it banishes any Ritual Beast card from your deck face up. During the second standby phase after this card's activation, add the banished card by this effect to your hand, and again, special summon once per turn. So it's Cold Sarcophagus on once per turn. One thing about the Spiritual Beast monsters, and the main deck monsters too, for the most part, is they're soft once per turns. And what soft once per turn means is that once while that card's face up on the field during your turn, you can activate the effect. But if the card is removed from the field and then is brought back somehow, which is what you're going to be doing often, that effect resets. It's basically one activation per copy of a card, once per turn. And so if the card leaves the field, comes back, that basically resets. It sees itself as a different copy of the card that allows you to banish again, which is very important because that's how you're going to fuel your banish pile to do your combos, which allow you to do your search it, tag out effects with Ulti Canohawk. This is your main combo starter here. You basically want to try and get to Elder and Canohawk as fast as possible. And if not Elder and Canohawk, the next best thing, Rampengu. You can play anywhere between 1 to 3 copies of this card. I personally like 2. I think 2 is a nice sweet spot. But you can experiment with it. 1 is not incorrect, 3 is not incorrect. Because overall, you just basically need to see Elder and either Canohawk together or Elder and Rampengu, because that also gives you a combo on top of that. So what Rampengu does is once per turn, you can banish 1 Ritual Beast monster from your extra deck, send 1 Ritual Beast monster with the same type from your deck to the graveyard. So you're going to be using its effect to banish either your fusions here from the extra deck or your link from the extra deck, and that's going to allow you to send one of the same type. So if you banish Ulti Paleo, that sends an Paleo from deck to the graveyard. If you banish an Ulti Canohawk from the extra deck, it sends a Canohawk from deck to graveyard. One thing that separates it from like Duel Links here is that Rampengu can send Ulti Gaia Paleo and Ulti Command Falcos, which are both psychic type monsters, which means Rampengu has more utility here because its ability to send Tamers to the graveyard, which makes it a lot easier to set up your combos and whatnot, which is amazing. And the other thing, the synergy thing I was talking about earlier, is that the one thing you can do that's kind of cheeky that you can do with Spiritual Beast Rampengu is if you have Zephyr Polika face up in the extra deck because she was destroyed or she was linked off and sent there, you can use Rampengu's effect to banish the Zephyr Polika from the extra deck to send another Psychic, a Tamer, from deck to the graveyard, so that doubles up on... It basically acts like a Canohawk here for Polika that also just happens to send a Psychic from deck to the graveyard, which is great value. It doesn't come up too often, because a lot of the time Polika is just not really hitting the extra deck. But it is, when it does come up, it feels really nice when you can get it off. So that's really good. Next up, 1 copy of a Paleo is mandatory. You use it to keep your graveyard banished. And the boost is actually really nice. You can get multiple boosts in a turn with a single Paleo, which is a lot of damage when you combine it with Ulti Command Falcos. Its boost as well, like actively, a lot of your monsters are swinging for... You have board swings of over 10k damage each, like very, very powerful setup card. Obviously not amazing to open, but you can still do like combos and stuff if you do open it. Just understanding what those combos are, what the end boards lead to, but most importantly, it's just... It does what Ulti Command Falcos does, and that keeps your graveyard... it keeps your banish pile filled up. So, mandatory 1 of, have to play it. Next up, 1 copy of Petalfin. This is... I want to say this is not mandatory, because the bouncing on Petalfin doesn't come up too often, but it's nice to have in case you're faced with something like Thunder Dragon Colossus that has built-in protection, or Dingirsu, which has built-in protection. Having the bounce against that is very nice. Also, it's another spiritual beast that you can use to help set up with Rampengu. It can lead to some OTK lines that otherwise you wouldn't have with trying to set up with Steeds, but usually your disposal tool of dealing with opponents' monsters is through Ritual Beast Steeds, so it's not quite as important here, but it's still worth 1 slot into the deck. So 1 copy of Spiritual Beast Petalfin is fine here. And next up, say the best main deck monster for last, in my humble opinion, Winda. So you can play Winda at anywhere between 1 to 3 copies. Her floating effect isn't quite as powerful here in Master Duel because of just a lot of times things aren't just really triggering it. You're not really, a lot of your setups that you do in your combos don't actually need to end on multiple Winda. So she's mostly in there if your hand is kind of soft and kind of bricky, right? But you don't generally want to open many Windas, because like ideally you want to be comboing, and you should be looking at comboing off as much as you can, right? And Winda kind of doesn't facilitate that. However, that's not stopping me from playing 3 copies of Winda, I'll tell you that. And also set Winda pass when you have interaction backed up with it, even a normal summon Winda with like steeds, and if you have like hand traps or other pieces of interaction, or even like a Macrocosmos, that's still really good because the synergy that Winda has with cards like Macrocosmos, when you play multiples, is very, very good. Because you're generally going to feel safe if the cards are still on the table anyway, just because a lot of decks can't play through those. And we'll talk about those too, Macrocosmos and whatnot. So yeah, to me, you'll never see me running less than 3 Windas in this deck. It's just not a thing. But you could get away with 1 or 2 copies and be fine. I've even seen some people play 0 copies of Winda, which breaks my heart, but you know what? People can do what they want. But yeah, I play 3 Winda, and it's good. I don't think she's a brick. I think she's fine. Next up, Ritual Beast Steeds for Ritual Beast cards. So this is a 2 to 3 of. I do not think you play any less than 2, but you can play up to 3 is a good number. It is your main defense and offensive tool. It's what you're going to be trying to search for the most when you're doing your combos. Well, like when you finish setting up, this is going to be one of the number 1 cards you're going to be searching. If you control a Ritual Beast monster, destroy monsters in the field up to the number of Ritual Beast monsters you currently control. So, yeah, the Go card. Yeah, this card is very powerful. It's searchable with Cultic Hawk. It's non-targeting removal, which means your opponent can activate stuff like Starlight Road in response to it. Not that that's really going to come up, but just a little thing to keep in mind. And you can pop your own stuff too, which usually only comes up if your opponent's playing like Mystic Mine, or if you need to get like a Petalfin bounce like active. Like let's say there's a skill drain bothering you, you can Ritual Beast Steeds your own Petalfin after you've activated the Petalfin to get rid of it, so you can get the bounce off. Another thing that doesn't encounters Imperial Order. It only pops monsters. And also, you don't need to worry about Imperial Order because you don't generally play a lot of spells. Yeah, exactly. You don't really play many spells, so that's fine. So yeah, good 2 to 3 of, because it's searchable. And yeah, this is one of your main win cons. One of your win conditions. It's how you condition the field, so you can set up. Like, that's why, like, you'll see later on that we don't really rely on, like, Altia Paleo for getting damage through, unlike Duel Links, where you see a Altia Paleo a lot. Next up, another very important card here. Ritual Beast Ambush. Another card that I think is a 2 to 3 of. You can play this card at 3 because it is very good, and you need that grind game, and you need that resilience in this format. Otherwise, you're just going to get like drowned by cards like the Nibiru will wreck you if you're not careful. If you open up Ambush and you're able to, and you have combo as well, you're in a very good position in terms of playing around interaction. So having Ambush, having a follow-up, having a backup plan for when things go wrong is important, which is why I think this card is incredible. This card is actually incredible. It's very good. You can play it at 2 to 3. I think it's a safe number. You don't always want to open it, but if you do open it, you want to open it with combo, obviously. That way you can, it'll make your searches a lot easier, and it'll allow you to commit harder to plays without getting blown out by like Nibiru. So very important. Last 2 Ritual Beast cards I want to talk about for the main deck. Ritual Beast Return and Ritual Beast Bond. I'm going to be upfront with you guys. You don't play these cards. These cards are not that great in Master Duel. They're not that good in TCG, they're not that good in OCG, they're not good here. The main draw to playing these cards in Duel Links was just the lack of monster zones and the 4,000 life point. This lack of interaction, like having return, lets you extend, whereas extending is not quite as impactful because there aren't quite as a lot of single interaction. This is where, like, Ritual Beast Return is great when there's a lot of like singular card interaction, such as like if the format was super heavy around like Dogmatica Punishment, for example, or yeah, obviously Giant is very popular, but a lot of these decks have multiple ways to interact with you in like non-targeting ways, such as like Revolt into Shurag is one thing, and they can do that like afterwards. So, and like the Ritual Beast Return isn't going to help as much just because multiple interaction makes this card really bad, and it is a -1. So it only is good if it actually like goes off, and most of the time it probably isn't. It's going to be a brick most of the time. The same thing goes with Ritual Beast Bond, is you're going to want to have more interactive cards for your opponent. Like, my philosophy with Ritual Beast, especially right now, is that you should be trying to interact with the opponent and stop them as much as possible from setting up, than trying to hyper-focus and be as consistent as possible. Quick question, should I go for Heroes? Heroes is not free to play. Just throwing that out there. And yeah, Bond had a very interesting use of just being able to bond away from like Treacherous Trap Hole. Treacherous Trap Hole is practically non-existent in this game, and being used as an OTK finisher to get last hit to damage in, but we're in an 8k life point format. It's just going to be another brick that you don't want to be playing. So you don't play Bond, you don't play Return in Master Duel RB. That's basically it, yeah. Good day, Hawks, how's it going? Welcome. Nice check mark, by the way. So that's going to do it for the Ritual Beast main deck monsters. I'm going to talk about the extra deck monsters now. So, most important card, Ulticana Hawk. Play it at 3. We're allowed to play it at 3 now, so you're gonna play 3, right? So, I guess I should explain what Ambush does to you. It allows you to special summon a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast monster in your graveyard and/or banished, and special summon them face up defense position. So it's a 1-card re-enabler, effectively, which is very important for following up. But yeah, Ulticana Hawk must be summoned for the extra deck. They all share this trait where they must be special summoned for the extra deck by banishing the buff cards you control, which is a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast monster. All of the fusions do this with the exception of Ulti-Gaia Paleo, which we'll get to later. And you do not use Polymerization. And they all have this effect here, with the exclusion of Ulti-Gaia Paleo, that you can return them as a cost on the field back to the extra deck to target a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast monster and special summon them, which is another reason why I like playing Winda at multiple copies, because she is the only Ritual Beast monster in the entire deck that counts as both a Ritual Beast Tamer and a Spiritual Beast monster, which means if you have multiples banished, you can tag out into 2 of them at the same time, even though they state you can only be special summon once per turn. Notice here in brackets, Wynn does once per turn, which means, and they're summoned at the exact same time. So you can summon one as a Tamer and one as a Spiritual Beast at the same time, and it works. So that's a great way to have a great defensive wall that you can have, and it's part of the window wall setup that you can do with like Macrocosmos and D-Fissure. So keep that in mind. But yes, Ulticana Hawk, the main use for outside of going in and being able to tag out, is you target 2 Ritual Beast cards. As an ignition effect, you can target 2 banished Ritual Beast cards, return them to the graveyard, and if you do, add 1 Ritual Beast card from your deck to your hand. So, what the overall game plan here is you want to use the effect and abuse the effect as many times as you possibly can, because it searches any Ritual Beast card. It searches your steeds, it searches your follow-ups and your extenders, it searches your recovery, searches anything, any Ritual Beast card, and we can find ways to cheese the effect as well. Because how it was worded here is you can target 2 banished Ritual Beast cards, return them to the graveyard, which means only one of them needs to actually go to the graveyard to get the search off. So what we can do here, and then what is part of the regular standard setup, right, is you'd normal summon your Elder, you'd normal summon your Hawk, you'd have your Hawk activation. Hawk can banish any Ritual Beast monster, any Ritual Beast card from your deck face up. So you can banish, let's say, Rampengu. So then you go into your fusion, Cannon Hawk. So you banish the above cards you control, which in this case is going to be the Elder and the Cannon Hawk, to special summon the Cannon Hawk. Very fitting, right? So now we have 3 Ritual Beast cards banished. You activate the first effect here. Make sure, by the way, that you have Self Chain on for this. Otherwise, you're going to get really confused and wonder why things aren't working out for you. You need to have Self Chain on for this to work. So you use the first effect, you're going to target the Rampengu, and you're going to target either the Cannon Hawk or the Elder. These are the 2 cards you plan on sending to the graveyard. And one of them has to be Rampengu in this case. With Self Chain on, you will be given a prompt to activate another card effect, which in this case you're going to click yes, and you're going to activate Cannon Hawk's secondary effect, which is the effect to return them to the extra deck and target a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast. So, in response to the first ability, you're going to use the second ability. It's going to go back to the extra deck. You're going to target the Elder and the Cannon Hawk. So what you want to do here is you want to make sure that one of the cards that you are targeting to special summon is one of the cards you plan on sending to the graveyard. And then the other card you're going to target to tag out into is just going to be whatever you just didn't target, right? So in this case, we used the first effect. Let's say we targeted the Rampengu with the first effect and the Cannon Hawk. We're going to plan to send those to the graveyard. We chain the effect of Cannon Hawk to tag out. We're going to target the Cannon Hawk, which is one of the cards we targeted to send to the graveyard, and the Elder, which is the only other Tamer we can special summon. What's going to happen here is the effect is going to resolve, obviously, in reverse chain order. So the special summon is going to happen. You're going to summon Elder, you're going to summon Cannon Hawk. They're both going to get summoned to the field. Then the first effect that you activated is going to continue to try and resolve as much as possible. And as long as one card can be sent to the graveyard, which in this case will be Rampengu, you'll get the search. So what ends up happening here is instead of sending 2 banished Ritual Beast cards to the graveyard, you send 1. And you still get the search off. You have your pieces back, your Elder, the Cannon Hawk, and you can continue your combo by basically effectively cheating the system for Cannon Hawk and being able to only send 1 material instead of 2. Obviously, you can't keep doing this because all the Ritual Beast monsters can only be special summoned once per turn. But most of the time, you're going to be trying to utilize and get as much mileage out of this first effect here of sending cards to the graveyard to search as much as possible. One other thing to note is that it says return them to the graveyard. The keyword being return, meaning it does not technically send the cards to the graveyard. So if you have cards like Macrocosmos or Dimensional Fissure active that say, I guess I can pull them up pretty soon here, but it basically any card that's sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So it's not sending them to the graveyard, it's returning them. So it bypasses Macro, Defissure, Dimension Shifter. It bypasses that effect entirely, still sends the card to the graveyard, and you still get the search. Was the cheat purposeful for a mistake? That I'm not too sure about. I like to think that it was a happy little accident. So yeah, Cannon Hawk, most important fusion card. Most important card in the extra deck. Next up, Paleo. So the way they have the fusion set up here is there's one combo-oriented fusion, one aggro-oriented fusion, and one control fusion. So Paleo here is the aggressive one. Same condition, has to be summoned with a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast monster. Has the same takeout effect. 2600 attack, so it is relatively large in size. And its main effect is, if this card attacks, it is unaffected by other cards' effects until the end of the damage step. Which means as long as it's attacking, nothing can affect it. Not even your own effects. Which is a little bit of a nombo, because you lose the boost off of the Little Apelio and the Ulti Falcos. You lose those boosts while attacking with Ulti Apelio, which is why, personally, I only play one copy in here, because it's not so much useful to actually go into as a beater, more as it's useful to use as an extender for like Rampengu, or there are scenarios where you need like an easy contact into a beater because there's something that's like skill drain is bothering you, or a lot of back row heavy decks that you need to attrition 1-for-1 for. Ulti Apelio is useful for that, but most of the time Ulti Apelio is just going to be material for your other cards, so it's usually a one of. You don't bring it out too often, but when you do, it's like fine. The second one, same type of deal. Like, these cards are actually amazing in Duel Links. Ulti Apelio and Ulti Petalfin. This is also a one of here, because you generally don't go into it that often. The only time you really go into Ulti Petalfin is if you need a somewhat like simple setup while being pressured by a Max C. So what it does, it has the same effect as all of them. Its unique effect is that it cannot be destroyed by card effects. That's it. But it also means it cannot be destroyed by your own card effects, which means if you use it in conjunction with cards like Torrential Tribute or Needle Sealing, you don't get destroyed, which can be very useful. But yeah, I usually only go into Ulti Petalfin when my opponent Max sees me, and then I just banish a Wynn to give him one card with Ulti Petalfin, and that's basically it. Otherwise, you don't really go into, it's not walling a whole lot here. Everything has a note to it. It's not like Duel Links where literally everything is at like 20% of the power level this game is. So it's a one of, it's something you can send off Pengu to get Petalfin into the graveyard, and most of the time it's just food for your other tech cards like Pot of Prosperity. Next up though, phenomenal card, Ulti Falcos. This is the Winda Link, so obviously it's amazing because it has Winda the artwork. So, Original Beast monsters this card points to, gains 600 attack and defense. So that's in reference to an old Gusto card called Gusto Falcos, where it also boosts 600 attack defense to Gusto monsters when it's synchro summoned. Here it's just whatever it points to. The big effect for this card is you can banish a Ritual Beast card from your graveyard. Immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one Ritual Beast monster from your hand. Normal summon. So that's going to allow you to extend your combos while banishing cards from your graveyard, and it stacks with Elder because it's an effect that immediately normal summons. So it stacks with Elder. Your general normal combo line will give you 3 extra normal summons. 3 copies because it's Winda, pretty much. Well, that and it's a psychic, right? So you can use it with Rampengu. So it's usually you banish one of them, or like an Ulti Apelio to fill up your banish pile and your graveyard. And that'll let you, it makes it easier to set up, plus like you generally go into this card a lot. The Ulti Falcos and Ulti Kanahawk are the 2 cards you go into most of all out of the extra deck. So it's very fitting that they play, that you play 3 copies of each. And if it's properly summoned too, I think I mentioned this earlier, but if it is properly link summoned, you can revive it back with Laura, Kalika, or Wynn if they're in those appropriate zones. Which is cool because it can lead to Link climbing up to like Axis Code Talker, which is very powerful, Borlo or Bowl Sword, Appaloosa, those kind of setups, which is very nice. Next up, the big boss monster, Ulti Apelio. So this one's unique. Oh, also, Ulti Falcos has the same effect that it can tag out into a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast, so that's also very important. And the banish card effect is also a cost, so that can also enable a tag out. If your opponent wants to like effect veiler it, you can technically tag out. If you banish a card and make it tag out active, you can avoid it that way and still get the normal summon off, which is very cool. So Ulti Apelio, unique in the sense that it requires a Tamer, a Spiritual Beast monster, and a Ritual Beast Ulti monster. So It'll require one of the fusions or link monsters, a tamer, and a spiritual beast. And that's how you hard make Ulti-Gaia Paleo. So it has this effect. It does not have the ability to tag out. It is different in the other fusions and links that it just cannot tag out at all. But if it is properly summoned, you get the effect of during either player's turn when a spell or trap card or monster effect is activated, you can banish one Ritual Beast card from your hand, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. So it's an Omni Negate, and it is not once per turn. You have this effect for as many copies as Ritual Beast cards that you have in your hand. So if you can set this up with like, usually you'll have like somewhere between 2 to 4 activations when you're trying to set up a lethal play. Which is very powerful. Very, very powerful. Master J. Shea, welcome. Welcome. However, if you do summon this off of, let's say, you can play Bond. You can Bond into it. And you can float into it with Winda. But if you do, you don't get the effect because it has to be summoned by the fusion requirements. It's also unique in a sense that it is the only Ritual Beast monster in the entire archetype that is not a wind. It's a light attribute. And that pretty much goes through after that. It's a psychic as well, so you send psychics off of Paleo, or off of Rampengu to send like windows to the yard, which is great. So yeah, I like it at 2. In a lot of grind game stuff, like when against like Eldritch, for example, you're gonna want the ability to float into it because you need to be bigger than the opponent's skill drain targets. So skill drain can be kind of an issue, but also at the same time, you can run skill drain yourself. So this is the standard Ritual Beast core that I generally play. And then we have a bunch of other tech options that are also available to play, such as your consistency pieces. Because again, the main goal of the deck is to try and set up your 2-card combo. So what's going to help achieve that? Well, for starters, Wynn the Wynn Channeler. 3 copies. Always treated as a Charmer card, not relevant. When a monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can special summon it from your hand. Not relevant. The big effect here is it's effectively sign-up mining for anything in your deck, for the most part. You can discard this card and one other wind monster. Add one wind monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, except Wynn the Wind Channeler. Also, you cannot activate monster effects for less this turn, except for wind monsters. This doesn't lock you out of summons. It just means you can't activate Wind Monster's effect, which is important for another tech card choice that you could play later down the road. This searches pretty much everything. The only cards it cannot search is it cannot search Laura, it cannot search Winda, and it cannot search Petalfin. But it searches everything else in the deck, which is great. Which is another reason why I like playing one Palika too over like one Laura, because you can search Palika with Wynn. Like for example, if your hand is like Canahawk, Wynn, and a couple other Dirtles that aren't Ritual Beast monsters, you can ditch the Canahawk, search the Palika, and still have a semi-combo going on. For this deck, it's not relevant, the Charmer ability. The Speed Word card, the Link 2. I don't think the Link 2 is necessary, honestly. Not when we have Ulticumen Falcos. So yeah, you get locked in the winds, keep that in mind, which means if you try to use it and then try to go for like access code or something later, you're gonna be disappointed. Just keep that in mind when you use the effect. But it basically searches the most important cards of your deck. Elder, Canahawk, Pangu, like the main combo cards, and Palika, and Wynn, your follow-up cards. Oh, Channeler and Speedroid? Yeah, for sure. And however, it doesn't search the most important card, Winda, but you know what? Whatever. It's also worth noting that if you activate Wynn the Wind Channeler to get combo, that immediately, no matter what you discard, that immediately gives you an additional search Tago with Ulti Canahawk. Master J. Shade, thank you so much for the follow. So yeah, that's really, really useful. Another card choice. This is the best one, for sure. Out of all the other pots. Pot of Prosperity. generally you'll be able to activate this card at least once and be able to full send 6. It's a lot better than Extravagance, and it's a lot better than Pot of Desires. I used to play Pot of Desires before this card came out, and it wasn't the end of the world if you banished your Petalfin or like your Paleo, like your one-ofs. It wasn't usually the end of the world because it was helping you dig for combo pieces that were actually impacting the game. Like you got, like, as long as you don't banish all your steeds and banish all your ambushes, then you're generally fine. However, the issue with Pot of Desires, the main issue with it was drawing into other desires or other like dead hand traps, like your dimensional shifters that just weren't doing anything. This gives you more selection. You see 3 times the amount of cards with this, and you get selection of what you want to banish too. Which usually a lot of the time when I'm banishing this, I'm banishing a Paleo, Ulti Petalfin, 1 Ulti Guy Paleo, and then usually 3 of the other random Link monsters that we're playing, depending what you think you're going up against, right? If you have open combo, you probably only want a Pot of Prosperity for 3. But if you don't have combo and you desperately need it, a banish 6, the peel 6 is usually going to find you combo. Honestly, I do not think... I'm pretty sure this card for me has had like at least a 90% success rate to find the other combo piece that we're missing. Because remember, it can also find the Wynn, and Wynn finds you everything. As long as you have multiple Ritual Beasts in your hand. Oh, Desires and TCG? Yeah, that was really random. I don't understand. So this is definitely, personally, I think the best pot card to play in this deck. You could play Upstart technically as well, but I don't know. 1 card deeper is not that that impressive. When as like the selection here is just too good. Also in a time setting, you probably don't want to give your opponent life points in a tournament. All right, and then what we got? 13 slots left. KF. So what I like playing. So there's a lot of hand traps you can play, by the way, and like there's other tech choices too. So let me go over some of them right now. For example, the duo here of Dimensional Shift or Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos. So if you're on a budget, you can play these cards. Personally, I do not think these cards are playing Wendy to player. You just don't know, man. You just don't know. Personally, these two, they're very good. Obviously, if you resolve these cards and they are not dealt with, they will probably steal the game. The only issue is they're a little bit slow. If you go second with these cards, your opponent sets up on you, you're immediately behind. And if you go first with them, and your opponent just opens Feather Duster, because reminder, by playing these cards, you're making your steeds and ambushes weaker, or not so much weaker, but making your opponent's back row hate much stronger. And a lot of people are playing Dusters and Lightning Storms because nobody likes playing Eldritch. So, keep in mind, while playing these two, they are very powerful, and they have the ability to steal games pretty much on the spot, and they basically allow you to go infinite with the Winda floating into your extra deck and then being able to tag out back into 2 Windas. Just realize that you will lose a lot of games by going second with these cards and losing to like Harpy's Feather Duster and not having interaction with your opponent. Which gets me to the next card, which is honestly the best hand trap in the game. Better than Maxi, Dimension Shifter. Personally, I play this card at 3. If you have no cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard until the end of the next turn. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So, I say it's the best hand trap in the entire game because, and like better than Max C, the only reason why you don't see it is because nothing can play it. There's nothing in the metagame that can really afford to play this card because it just destroys those decks. Which is why it's so good here, because it's perfect for us. All of our floating effects trigger while being banished. We can send stuff to the graveyard even under effects like Dimension Shifter with Ulti Candlehawk for searches. If you resolve this card, 90 to 95% of the time, your opponent is going to pass the turn. which is going to allow you to set up. The best thing about this card too is it lasts for 2 turns. It's like Call by the Grave. It lasts for whatever turn you use it on. It's a quick effect, right? So if you use it on your turn, it'll last through your turn and then your opponent's turn. If you use it on your opponent's turn, it'll last the remainder of their turn plus your turn, which allows you to get crazy setups with like Rampengu setups, and like being able to win discarding banishing is really good. This card is phenomenal. And I play 3 because it's interaction, and I like it more than macro and defissure because it's you can use it going second, which is important. I think most Ritual Beast decks should be trying to focus on stopping your opponent from playing the game, or trying rather to stop them, not so much from playing the game, but stop them from setting up, so that you can basically steal their turn and set up yourselves. And that's kind of the big strength here, is being able to set up yourselves and annihilate your opponent's board with steeds, and then just using your defensive capabilities with windows and your tag outs to dodge your opponent's removal and just set up a big swing. Luke Tyler, thank you so much for the raid of 70 people. Can somebody give a huge shout out to my man Luke Tyler? So Dimension Shifter, phenomenal card. Play it at 3 if you can afford to. Otherwise, your budget alternative is to play Macrocosmos and Dimensional Fissure. Those are both acceptable. You can also technically play Goes and Match and Skill Drain. Those are both also very good. However, Skill Drain can affect you. Like, you can still banish with a Paleo onto Skill Drain. You can still search and tag out onto Skill Drain as long as you have the ability to tag out. You can still send a search because Skill Drain has to work while the monster's face up on the field. If the monster is no longer face up on the field, Skill Drain cannot check to see to negate it. So you can actually tag out, and like you can search tag out when the floats through it too as well. Spiritual Beast of Paleo lets you banish for cost. But like I said earlier, if you try to summon Elder onto Skill Drain, if Skill Drain's already active, you don't get the extra summon. It's also going to stop your Laura and Palika revives and your Wynn revives too. So it's a little bit weaker here. But if you can manage to get out like Ulti Gaia Paleos, like there are some matchups where it's going to be actually like pretty good. But an opponent flipping Skill Drain on you while they're playing something like Eldritch, you're going to want a way to deal with it. Why is this deck so expensive? Just because how I play it. You already know. Another important tech, another turn ender card. These are important, I think. Triple copies of Nibiru is what I play. Card is great. If your opponent punishes opponents for overcommitting, and it allows you to rob the turn from your opponent, like I said, swinging the turn back to you, lets you set up. And yeah, sometimes it just wins games because a lot of like the biggest problem for like a deck like Ritual Beast, other than like hyper aggressive control decks, which you can still like try and whittle out with Ulti Paleo and like your dodging effects as well, is the hyper aggressive combo decks that can set up on you and stop and like force multiple pieces of interaction from you. So that was like the one issue with playing Max C, and you can still play Max C. It's still good. Obviously, it's still amazing. It lets you help you find your combo pieces, but it's hard to play through a lot of interaction, like multiple Herald negates, like you can't really do that, and like multiple back row negates with like Borlo Savage backed up by it, like Savage and Herald is kind of hard to play through. If you can just stop your opponent from playing, like setting them up, like basically end their turn with Nibiru, it's very effective. What you want to be doing is to try and stop your opponent from setting up on you, as opposed to just being like as consistent. Like obviously consistency is important, but you need to find a good balance between consistency and being able to set up and being able to interact with your opponent. So that's why I like Triple Cops Nibiru. Other things to keep in mind about Nibiru is it doesn't tribute face down monsters. So you could technically set a window pass and still Nibiru and keep the window. Also, a thing you can do too is if you do have like a tag out available, you can, when your opponent summons their 5th monster, you'll get a prompt for Nibiru, obviously, but you'll also have your prompts to tag out. You can tag out of your Ritual Beast monster, and then to that effect, you can chain Nibiru. Nibiru will tribute the field, it'll summon itself, it'll summon the Primal Being token, and then you'll be able to summon your other 2 Ritual Beast monsters that you're taking out into. This is very important. This allows you to maintain board presence, and it basically, if they have to pass a turn, it lets you start the turn off with combo and like follow up already without having to use it. It does, yeah. Nibiru only tributes face-up monsters. You can tribute as many face-up monsters on the field as possible. So you can use that to your advantage. You can set a window and like be backed up by Nibiru and like other hand traps, and it's fine. Other important cards here. Don't think I need to explain this one too much. Ash Blossom, Enjoy Your Spring. Phenomenal hand trap card. Play it at 3. You can play technically 2, I guess, as well. And then you can substitute one of them, for example, or even just add in Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Personally, I do not think this card's very good right now, but one thing to note that it is a psychic hand trap monster that can be activated on field. So you can activate You can activate Emergency Teleport to summon it from the deck and then use its effect on field to pop something. Personally, I do not think this card is good in Ritual Beast. Emergency Teleport, that is. Reason being is a lot of the interactions and a lot of the extenders you actually want are for your Spiritual Beast monsters, and it doesn't do that for you. It only finds you tamers. Like the best case scenario here is you have Emergency Teleport and open up Canahawk, but that doesn't even end on a super solid board. And if you lose your Canahawk, what is the Emergency Teleport doing? Not really a whole lot. I personally do not think this card is worth the slot. You're better off just running more interaction instead. All the other Floodgate stuff though that I mentioned earlier, like D-Fissure, Macro, goes in. Even there can be only one, you can play that as well, and like it might cuck some tag outs, but you might still, like, you can still be able to tag out of like Ulti Canahawk. You can tag out into Pengu and like a window and then go back into it, or Ulti Paleo under there can be only one. But those you can always fit in the side deck too, right? So it's not necessarily as important. Jeff 17A, thank you for the follow. Alright, so yeah, that's a no from me on Emergency Teleport. Just more interaction. You can still play Max C, and you can play like Effect Veiler as well. Flobos too, thank you for the follow. The one thing to keep in mind though is, and this is the same thing with Droll. Droll is actually very like interesting here. Droll and Lockbird, which apparently I don't have any copies of. Oh, perfect. There he is. Just kidding. Droll and Lockbird. It's a wind with 0 attack and defense, which means it is searchable off of Wynn. So keep that in mind. You can actually play this card in the main deck and be fine. The reason why I don't play stuff like Droll and Lockbird, the reason why you don't see me playing stuff like Effect Veiler or Max C, is because they have to be sent from the hand to the graveyard in order to be activated. Which means if you have Dimension Shifter activated, you cannot activate Max C and Effect Veiler. Which inversely, if your opponent has them, they can activate them on you. Which means you can't get your if you have Dimension Shifter active or Macro or D-Fissure active, your opponent cannot Effect Veiler your Canahawk. They cannot Effect Veiler your Elder. They can't Max C you, but generally they'll Max C you at the start when you activate Shifter, or when you activate whatever. Ghost Mourner also searchable. It is, I'm pretty sure. Actually, no, it's not searchable with Wynn, because I think it has 1800 defense, like most of the Ghost Girls do. So I don't think it's searchable off of. Otherwise, you probably would see it here. But Veiler would probably just be better anyway. It's just a better card. Ichai Chi, thank you for the follow. But yeah, you can. The thing is, if you activate Dimension Shifter and you get a full turn back, and it depends how long you expect the game to go, like you can still Max C your opponent as well. Like it's still fine anyway. Like, so you could still play Max C. You could still play these hand traps alongside Shifter. But I feel like if you're gonna play any like hand trap that works with Dimension Shifter, it's probably Infinite Impermanence. Is to follow, I appreciate it. So yeah, triple copies of Imperm. This is also what I play. Just another hand trap. The one bad thing about it is you generally will have to set it while going first versus your opponent. And that leaves you open to like cards like Harpy's Feather Duster and whatnot. We don't play a whole lot of back row, but it's because our back row is searchable. And getting dustered kind of sucks. So, I mean, like losing our imperms to like kind of back row removal can be annoying. But if we go second, it's a phenomenal hand trap. But even if we do go first, it's still good if you get it off. And it lets you actually play around like floodgates too, because you can set it in a skill drain column and then imperm something. I guess skill drain's a bad example, but like stuff like Imperial Iron Wall, you can set it in an Iron Wall column and negate it that way with it. And the last card that we play, of course, it's legal here. So, and like we play 3 spells in the entire deck, 1 copy Imperial Order. This card steals games. This card should be banned. It's not, so we're gonna abuse it, and we can find it with Prod of Prosperity, which is really nice. This card single-handedly just wins like striker games and whatnot. It's insane, and like pretty much any game, this card is nuts. You play it if you have it. If you don't have it, craft it. This card's insane. And the extra deck, rounding off the extra deck for the random staples and techs you can play. Literally extra deck can be like anything, but I think Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn are pretty solid. Again, they're not really mandatory, but the reason why you play Nightmare Unicorn is because it's a good card to go into while you're climbing up to your Access Code Talker, which is another win condition. What do you play in TCG with no order? Like for Ritual Beast? Well, I mean, I haven't really messed around with the TCG, AB, RB in a hot minute, I'm not going to lie. This card's expensive, man. But Access Code Talker, very powerful, and you have a lot of different attributes. Generally, you have 2 pops when you make Access Code Talker, because you can banish this as a dark, make it 5300, and then Alticumin Falcos. And then the Alticumin Falcos being banished is more fuel for your catalog searches later. Synergy! Don't play TCG, pretty much. Not right now, at least. I'm trying to get back into it, though. Other extra deck monsters that I like playing. 1 copy of Appaloosa. You can, and if you have like Wynn, the Wynn channeler, because it'll give, like, having Wynn in the combo will give you an additional search afterwards. It'll basically allow you to end on a 3-mat Appaloosa with Ambush to revive, Window and a Paleo or something, plus the Steeds or 2 to pop stuff. So it gives you a good amount of interaction. It's not necessarily mandatory, I don't go to it too often, but it is an option if you're playing going up against something like Drytron. Having something like Appaloosa can be pretty good, assuming they don't herald you, but something that's nice at least. And then rounding off, just another like safety card, Link 4, Boral Sword. The thing is, it's pretty easy to climb to Link 4s just because like Alticumin Falcos effectively gives you 2 summons. Because what you're summoning off of Alticumin Falcos is likely going to be either like a Laura, a Pelika, or a Wynn, which is an extra body. So this is what I play. Your list doesn't technically have to be like this. Like I said, you can play on a budget. You can have Dimension Fissures, Macrocosmos. Another option here, because I talked about it earlier, very briefly, is you can play a trap heavier build and play like more Solemns and stuff. You can play Torrential Tribute, because it synergizes well with like Ulti-Petalfin and the tag outs, because what you can do, similar thing what you can do to Nibiru, like with Nibiru, is you can summon a Ritual Beast fusion monster, let's say Ulti Paleo. The activation window for Torrential Tribute will appear. You can chain the tag out, or activate the tag out while this window is still open to remove it from play, and then activate Torrential Tribute, because it's still in the same activation window, to blow up the field and summon you 2. So that's actually something you can play as well. I touched about it briefly as well, but you can also play Zephyra as like a backup engine. I personally think it's a little bit clunky, and I haven't really done much testing with it, but that's a thing as well. You can play Zephyr cards because you technically can pen summon in that deck, and this works when it's pen summoned. But again, yeah, not mandatory. I think playing a pure build with a lot of interaction is just genuinely better. Other things to consider, Wind Witches. The Wind Witch engine also has seen play in Ritual Beast as well, because they are, I'm pretty sure they don't use your normal summon at all. You can special summon this card from your hand, and that basically allows you to set up Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is a negate, which allows you to play through a monster negate before you start setting up your Elder Hawk combo. But it does lock you out of synchro summon, or lock you out of summoning monster like level 5, or that you have to summon level 5 or higher Wynn monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn, so you can't link into Ulticume Falcos if you do play the Wind Witch engine. Another thing that's kind of neat too is using the card Nemesis Corridor. It is searchable off of Wynn as well, and this is an important one too, because what it leads into, you can still summon even off of Wynn, because Wynn only prevents the activation of a Wind monster, or the activation of anything that's not a Wind for the rest of the turn. But it doesn't stop you from summoning non-Winds, which is very important. So what it does is you can target one of your banished monsters, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, shuffle the target to the deck. You can target one of your banished Nemesis monsters, step corridor, add to your hand, only use this effect once per turn. So we can use this to shuffle some of our banished stuff back to get the special summon it, and it is a thunder monster, which means you can summon, after you activate it, you can actually end on Thunder Dragon Colossus in Ritual Beast. So you can have an end board that's like Ulticume Falcos, Ulti Hawk, and Thunder Dragon Colossus with an ambush and the steeds in the back row. The only issue is, yeah, it's kind of a brick if you don't if you can't set up. So it's not necessarily important, but it is something that you can technically do. So that pretty much rounds out what I think is mostly necessary. This is the build I prefer playing. The other tech choices are optional. If you want to play on a budget, again, you can play the macros and whatnot, but you should be trying to interact with your opponent as much as possible and trying to stop them from setting up. So in turn allows you to set up, and you running a bunch of powerful like turn ender cards, Dimension Shifter and Nibiru, help basically rob your opponent's turn. And yeah, the fact that this card works for a full cycle is insane, because like you get combos off of this card too. And Zodiac is live, thank you for the follow. So what I want to do now, very briefly, is I want to touch up on a couple of combos for you guys. Just kind of show you, because a lot of people have been asking me, what are the Ritual Beast combos? What are you supposed to be doing on your first turn? And I'm just going to be doing some random hands here, and I'll show you the Ritual Beast combos in just a moment. So we have Elder Hawk combo with an additional search here. So I'm going to show you how you do it. So first of all, you're going to activate the Wynn here. We're going to ditch the, we're going to discard the window here. That's going to allow us to add the Elder. So this here, we have Elder Hawk combo setup. And this is how we do it, right? So first of all, normal summon the Elder. Next up, normal summon the Hawk. Very simple. And you almost cried your way the plat. So Hawk effect here. You're going to banish Rampengu. One thing to note about all these combos here too is you don't need a Paleo in the extra deck to do any of these combos here that involve around Rampengu. They can all be set up, now that we have Ulti Hawk at 3, they can be set up without Ulti Paleo now. So what we're going to do here now, we're going to go into our Ulti Hawk like I said before. Doesn't matter where. Activate the first effect here. You're going to target the Pangu and the Elder here. We have Self Chain on, so it's going to give us a prompt here to activate this effect. We're going to tag out, back to the extra deck for cost, target the Elder, target the Hawk. So this is going to allow us to summon the two, the Elder and the Hawk here, while still trying to resolve Ulti Hawk's effect as much as possible. Since it does still have a legal send here, it'll send the one to the graveyard and we get a search here. We're going to search Laura here. I like searching Laura here over Kalika, just because it Kalika can be searched off of Wynn and Laura can't, so having a searchable card off of Wynn later on can be relevant. So I like searching Laura here, it's fine. Now we're gonna use the Canohawk here. The Canohawk's gonna banish the Apelio. We're gonna go now into the Link monster, Ulticumin Falcos. Alright, activate the effect of Ulticumin Falcos to banish, to immediately normal summon. So if we didn't have Wynn, we wouldn't have the window here, which means you just banish one of the other 3 that are down here. That would give you 1 less search overall, but it's still fine regardless. We're gonna banish the window here. You don't want to banish the Rampengu though. I should clarify that. You do not want to banish Rampengu because that's what you want to summon off of this Laura. So normal summon Laura, activate the effect. Laura's going to summon the Rampengu back. Activate the effect here. And we can send... Generally here you want to banish one of your Psychic extra deck monsters. And you're going to want to send a Winda. This actually works just fine because we have... we'll be able to tag out, we'll have a double Winda set up here, which is really nice. But again, you don't need the Winda discarded from Wynn for this combo to work. It just gives you an extra search here anyway. So now we'll go into our Ulti Canohawk. Activate the first effect. Target the Ulti Gaia Pelio, target the Laura. Chain the takeout effect. Summon the Laura. Summon the Apelio. You don't want to take that out. Just gonna send the Ulti Gaia Apelio. Again, just managing and making the most out of your banishes here. So this is where you'd want to search like either your steeds or your ambush here. And then you obviously can set up based differently. If you don't open up ambush and you think your opponent might have an Nibiru, you might want to set up slightly differently by searching ambush instead. That's going to cut off how many searches you can do though, but it is going to give you the best ability to search to play around opponents' Nibirus here. But if you open up ambush, the first search for Laura is free. If you open up Laura or Palika, then the search for ambush is also effectively free here. Since we have ambush already, we're going to grab one of our steeds. We got the Apelio effect now to banish. The window here. Remember, if we didn't have Wynn, we wouldn't have the window here. We would just banish either the Elder or whatever else is in there. Go back in the Ulti Canohawk. Again, we get a search. So this is here. When you do this search without the second window here, you won't be able to tag out. You'll only be able to send to the graveyard, but it's fine anyway. Just because you'll be able to have... there'll still be 5 monsters banished here, right? Because the other window would just be like Elder here. You would just send the second Elder, or like the Elder and the Pangu to the graveyard to get a hard search here for like a second copy of Steeds. This still gives you a tag out into like Laura and Apelio, which then the Apelio can banish whatever from the graveyard, which will allow the Ulticumin Falcos to tag out as well into the Winda and whatever else you banished. On top of that, you still have enough Ritual Beasts floating in the graveyard that you can still activate Ambush as well. But since we have the window here anyway, we're just going to target these two. Activate the Tagout effect. Summon a Winda. Summon a Winda. It's going to send Pangu back. We're going to get another search. Your Steeds. And again, your searches can be based off of your feelings too, right? Like there's a lot of... You can set up however you really feel like you need to set up. There's no necessarily incorrect way to do it. You just kind of have to go with like instinct and what you think you're playing up against or what you know you're playing up against. So like here, we know we're playing against nothing, so we can just search multiple steeds here. At this point as well, you could technically, like, if you didn't want to search anymore here, I know that sounds crazy, you could end on like Alti-Petalfin here, for example. Because like our banish pile right now is 4 cards here before this last activation, but we can still activate. We can send like the Paleolora to the graveyard. And then like grab whatever. You can grab like the Palika now if you want to for follow-up. You can grab another Steeds and just grab triple Steeds. However you feel need. So now our banish pile is 2 cards. Again, if you stop at 3 searches, you'll have 4 cards. Because you'll be able to do the tag out, the banish, and the tag out afterwards. But here, because we have the additional search tag out here, we have 2 there and the full graveyard here. And then we could just like, you know, set 5 cards. And that's how you would combo. So that was with Wynn and yeah, and if obviously if you didn't have ambush, you want to find ambush, right? So with Elder Hawk and Wynn here, it gives us 4 searches that lets us end on Alti-Human Falcos, Alti-Canna Hawk, and at least 1 Steeds and 2 Steeds in an ambush actually here. And then these other 2 cards are just what we opened with. Yeah, and then if your opponent feather dusts you, that's why you want to. That's why I'm saying like you want to do your plays based off of like what you feel, and because like there's no technically wrong way to set up, as long as you do this like it's just what you decide, right? Like technically you wouldn't like even have to set triple Steeds as well. You probably grip like even like 2 Steeds at this point if you open them. And obviously like if we opened up multiple like Steeds in an ambush, we would just search like a Palika here and just make sure that we have follow-up anyway. So given that, fucking my other self just drew Nibiru. So yeah, we have a tag out here in the double window as well. Yeah, so what we have here, with the ambush as well too, mind you, right? This is you. Searchable RB counter trap. Well, I mean, that's what Ulti-Guy Paleo is, right? So, what we end up having here for this... Doesn't really matter what we banish here, honestly. We have Steeds that can pop 15 monsters. Triple Steeds, 5 monsters each. Very powerful. Assuming your opponent doesn't hit you with the Feather Duster. But again, like I said, you can just play like Psalms and stuff, and it'll be just fine. Another big thing about the deck, and it's a very huge bonus about the deck too, is you really do not have to worry about time at all. Which is great. Time will be like your best friend in this game. You have like what, 5 minutes to do your plays. Like I even had time to stop and explain my combos, and we still had like 2 minutes left. Like time is very generous in this game, which is a huge boon to Ritual Beast because combos can be quite extensive. Sure, I'll show off the shifter combo right now. So yeah, so we open up shifter. The combo is going to look pretty much the exact same. It's going to have the exact same setup. This time we don't have Wynn though for your additional card. So banish Rampengu. Does it feel generous sometimes? Like, I gotta play fast, man. Once you get the hang of the combos, you'll understand it. So again, it's going to start the exact same way as the other combo here. Where we're going to summon the Elder, summon the Canna Hawk, and it's going to put... See, we're still under Shifter, by the way. Like, we're currently under Dimension Shifter. and we still send it to the graveyard because it's returning it to the graveyard. It's not sending it, so we get to search here. So what you want to do here now is you don't want to search your Laura Palika like you normally do. You want to actually search Wynn here. Reason for this is because, okay, so now obviously we're going to banish our use our kind of Hawk here effect. Damn it. Banish the Paleo here. And now we want to link summon, right? And normally the monsters, when doing the link summon, would go to the graveyard, but since we're under Dimension Shifter, they're going to get banished. Effectively acting like a regular Ritual Beast Tego. So at this point, our graveyard is the Dimension Shifter and the Rampengu. So if we want to use the effect of Ultimate Falcos here to banish to get additional normal summon, we have to banish the Rampengu. That's going to allow us to summon the Wynn though. Wynn's going to summon from the banish pile the Rampengu. So very similar to the first combo here too. A lot of the same banishes are happening with the regular Hawk, and pretty much the same send for Rampengu as well, because we can banish it altogether. Paleo, send a Winda. Winda will get banished. That's the big thing about Rampengu as well, and Dimension Shifter, is you can still activate it under Dimension Shifter because it's not a cost to send from the deck to the graveyard. So you effectively get to banish two. You get to banish the extra deck monster, and you get to banish the one that you're setting of the same type. So we got a Winda banish here now. We got 2 free banishes because of our card Dimension Shifter. Now it's going to allow us to go back in. Activate the effect. Target and target. Target the Ultimate Paleo, target the Wynn. Tag out. Summon the Wynn. Summon the Paleo. So this is what I mean by like not having an additional tag out because we didn't have an additional Ritual Beast name off of Wynn here. So when we go to search again here, this is our second search. When we go to search again, we won't have a live tag out available, but it'll still be fine. So here, we're going to search one of our ambushes. The Paleo can still banish. The only card we can. Go back into Ulticanohawk. That's going to allow us to do another hard search right here. And depending on the situation, you might want to send like a Pangu or a Hawk to the graveyard. It's because it's something that you can get back with the like Palika, for example. Like we can use this turn here, send these to the graveyard, grab ourselves like Palika. You could grab yourself the Steeds here as well. Palika is follow-up at least. And then here, this is our end board. We've got the ambush, we got the Steeds. We probably search Steeds here if we didn't open it. But because we opened it, we can either grab a second Steeds or grab Palika here. So our end board is we get a search for ambush regardless. We get a search for either Steeds or whatever follow-up you're missing. We have Ulticanohawk here, Ulticumen Falcos, 5 Ritual Beast monsters banished. So that allows you to tag out into like Winda Paleo, into an additional tag out into like Pangu Elder or Pangu Wynn. And then that gives you an additional banish, which can lead to another tag out. Or you can just keep like the little Hawk in the graveyard for a follow-up for the future turns with the Palika that you may have searched. If not, then you can just leave it banished and it's fine. So that will be the end of that combo. That is Shifter with Elder Hawk. Alright, so for this next section here, we're going to be showcasing the combo and what happens if you get ashed along the way during the combo here. So, just like normal summon the Elder, normal summon the Hawk effect to banish. gonna banish Rampengu as usual. Just regular standard combo setup here. Then you're gonna want to go into Ulti Hawk. Do the same thing as you normally would. Activate the effect. Click. Target, target. And then your opponent ashes you here. This is the first prompt they can to ash. The one that makes most sense. You end up getting negated here, which is completely fine. Because we're still able to have a tag out here. So we can still tag out. And depending on what you have in your hand at this point is going to depend on what you want to actually like take out into. So if you don't have like Laura or Wynn or Palika in here, you're just going to go into Elder Hawk. But if you have them, then you might want to go into Rampengu. The combo basically ends the same way regardless. Like you're still going to have like the same kind of resources, the same amount of searches. So summon the Elder, summon the Hawk. We get the effect here now of Hawk to banish the copy of Wynn. So again, yeah, if you open up Laura and or like Wynn, then you can have a different combo line here where you summon the Rampengu. Rampengu will allow you to send the Apelio. We're going to be trying to send Apelio here anyway with Rampengu even later in this combo here. Send to the graveyard. And then at that point, like right here, you'd want to go into the Link Monster. That way you could banish, if you have Laura in hand, for example, you can banish one of these two Ritual Beasts to summon and get back the Apelio. You banish. That was going to give you a search tag out into at least the Laura and the Wynn, which then will give you another tag out, or another search without a tag out after that. And then if you have Wynn as well, you just banish whatever you would plan to revive. The case the Apelio, like you would banish the Apelio in the graveyard to summon it from the banish pile with Wynn, and you'd basically accomplish the same thing. You'd still get the banish with the Apelio. You'd still get the search tag out into Wynn plus another tamer. But since we don't have that, we're just gonna go back into Ulti Hawk. We'll just assume that the other cards in the hand are just duds. They just don't do anything here. And for the most part, we wouldn't want to go into Ulti Falcon at this point anyway, given our hand. So just go back in, Ulti Hawk effect. First effect here. Because we already summoned the Hawk and the Elder, so we can now target these two. Chain the tag out. Target the Wynn. Target the Rampengu. If your opening combo is the Elder Rampengu combo and your Rampengu gets ashed, that ends up hurting quite significantly more because it means that you can't actually have an additional search tag out at all. You would have to just do a hard send unless you were somehow playing like return, but I don't think it's worth a slot in the deck regardless for just scenarios like that. So regardless here, we're gonna add the Laura now. We're gonna activate the Rampengu. So when this happens too, when you get ashed, when you see Ulti Hawk gets ashed, you're only gonna allow it to do 2 searches entirely, and one of them is gonna be for an extender. So you're gonna only really have access to like 1 Steez, which is still fine. It still gives you at least a piece of interaction here. So now we use the Rampengu to send the Apelio, so we can revive with Laura. If we end up banishing the Apelio off of the Pot of Prosperity, then you would probably just want to send another copy of Wynn, and instead of banishing, I guess, a Wynn off of your Hawk, you just banish a different tamer name. I don't think it actually makes a difference on what you do there, so you're fine. Regardless, just banish a Wynn, send a Wynn, because you're only going to get like 1 additional tag out at that point, or 1 additional search. So now we can do the Link Summon here. Into the Ultimate Falcos. Activate the effect. We're gonna keep the Apelio banished here. We're gonna banish the Wynn. There. This is going to allow us to summon. Laura is going to allow us to activate. Summon the Paleo. Paleo effect activate. Banish doesn't really matter what we banish here. We're going to be left with 4 names in total. Going to Kanahawk. Activate the effect. So now everything so far other than Laura, we've already special summoned. So whatever we're sending to the graveyard is going to get sent to the graveyard. We have no live tag out here. So this is where you get 3 attempts at a search, but only 2 go through because one of them is ashed here. So just grab the steeds here, because you want to be able to interact with the opponent here. So having access to at least the steeds is pretty powerful. And even though like we got ashed and we only got to search twice, one of them being with an extender, our banish pile, we still have 4 different names banished. So that still allows us to have 2 tag outs into like a Paleo Winda and then Laura Kanahawk afterwards. And then we still have these 2 in the graveyard, so if you also opened up Ambush, you have a play that searches, or that summons these 2 as well, which is really nice. So that's basically what happens when you get ashed. And like I said, if you open Laura, if you have the Laura or you have the Wynn in your opening hand, you can use the Pangu effect to like send whatever, like the a Paleo. Like you can tag out to a Pangu and Elder as opposed to Elder Hawk. Use the Apaleo to send the Pangu to send the Apaleo, and then you can just effectively do the same kind of combo anyway. You actually do get a better search too if you tag out to Elder Pangu, because you still have the Kanahawk that hasn't been summoned yet. Alright, so the Elder Pangu combo now. Oh yeah, it's the AI is gripping onto imperms. Activate. Summon, normal summon, the 2. Activate the effect here. Gonna send the Winda to the yard here. Again, you don't need a Paleo for any of these combos, but it is an alt. Basically, with a Paleo or without a Paleo, it ends on pretty much the exact same board anyway. So, go in there, the Kanahawk, activate the effect. Target. Make sure you target the Link monster, because you can't summon the Link monster. It's not properly summoned, and it's also can't be summoned in defense mode. So, summon, Elder, summon Rampengu. It's going to send to the graveyard. And literally the combo is pretty much the same here. We just grab the Laura here. It used to be different before when Alta Kanahawk was at 1 copy. The combo was actually different here. You would have to search a regular Kanahawk at this point if you didn't already have one. And because you can't banish Kanahawk here because there's only 1. You need the Alta Kanahawk in the extra deck with 1 copy. So at this point you would use the Pangu to banish a Paleo, and then you'd use the additional normal summon off of Ulticumen Falcos to summon the Kanahawk, which would enable a tag out off the Ulticumen Falcos, and then you'd have an additional tamer as well in the banish pile that you could summon, that you can use the Kanahawk on play. That was also normal summon plus it. You get a search tag out that way, and then you get a hard search. And the end result is 3 searches. You get Ulticumen Falcos. Oh, the Ulticumen Falcos has to tag out. The end board is double Winda and Apaleo. But since we get to play Ulti Kanahawk now at 3 copies, we can use that now to send a Kanahawk from the graveyard. Remember, these are all just kind of duds for the sake of the combo. Now we can do our Link Summon play. 1 Ulticumen Falcos. 1, 2. It was at 1 copy because I'm pretty sure it was due to like time constraints, and they wanted to like, I guess, make it the deck less represented. It wasn't that highly represented to begin with, but yeah, I think they just wanted to find a way to deal with it. All right, so now here we still have the ability to summon the Cannahawk from the graveyard because we still have the Laura in hand. So we're gonna banish the window here. That's gonna give us the normal summon of Laura. Laura's gonna be able to activate. Yeah, I was at 1 for like 5 years. Summon the Cannahawk. Activate the effect. Banish the Paleo. Back and move to Cannahawk. Winda and friends. It's Winda and myself, our friends. Activate the effect of Cannahawk. Target. We haven't targeted summon the Laura. We can't summon the Cannahawk. Change the Tego. Summon the Laura and the Apelio. It's gonna get a search for either an ambush or a steeds here. Activate the Apelio. Can banish whatever, because we're gonna have the materials necessarily for the Taiga regardless. We're just gonna send it to the graveyard regardless anyway, because we have the ambush here. It literally ends on like the same board as the Elder Hawk combo, pretty much. It just uses a little more extra deck cards because you need to use extra deck cards for Rampengu. Activate the effect here. Send, and then yeah. As you might have noticed from the standard Elder Hawk combo, we get a search here. Technically, you don't need to search ambush here if you are. Usually, it's better to search ambush early on when you open stuff like Laura, so you know you can have like a follow up in case of Nibiru, because Nibiru can be a real issue. Otherwise, you can search, like, it depends how defensive and how aggressive you think you need to be. So you can search up multiple steeds. So this is a search without a takeout because we have no more things to summon. But we have the exact same outcome as we did with the Elder Hawk combo, where we have 2 back row cards that were searched. We have a takeout into, like, Winda Paleo, which allows us to banish one of the others, one of the other beasts, which gives a takeout into Laura and, like, say, Cannahawk or Rampengu, and then the ambush as well. If that is all dealt with as well, the ambush can bring back the Elder and the Hawk, or the Elder and the Rampengu. So that's the deviation of the Elder Pengu combo. It ends on the pretty much the exact same board that the Elder Hawk combo does. But like I said before when Elder Cannahawk was at 1, you would have to send a Paleo to the graveyard, and you'd search Cannahawk, and you would end on double Winda and a Paleo with an ambush and a steed set, as opposed to what you see here. So, yeah, those are the main combos that you should generally try and practice. Is the main ones is just understanding the Elder Hawk combo and understanding the Elder Pengu combo, and then kind of messing around with the deviations of those combos based off of other cards that you have. Like I said, if you have Laura in your opening hand, you can be more free with your searches. Like, it'll allow you to search ambush to help play around Nibiru. If you open up ambush, then you can search Laura and be able to combo off more, like, confidently, because you'll have the ambush anyway for a follow-up as well. For both combos, the Elder Hawk and Elder Pengu combo. If you get ashed, obviously your setup is a little bit weaker, but you still have a full banish pile, plus you have at least 1 steeds. A lot of times having 1 steeds is good enough, and then you also have the other cards in your hand too. Like if you have imperms and like ashes as well. It's more interactions for your opponent, stopping your opponent from playing the game. If you have Dimension Shifter, that extends your combos even greatly because anything you send off Rampengu is also going to get banished. And it's just understanding that if you have Dimension Shifter combo active, that instead of searching the Laura, which you usually do on your first search, you search Wynn, because all the cards in your graveyard are going to be banished by the time you link summon into Ultiquin Falcos. And then after the activation of Ultiquin Falcos, the only thing you can banish is a Pengu, so you need to make sure that you have Wynn in your hand to bring back the Pengu and extend your combos. So you get basically all the combos grant you like 3 searches, and an additional search if you have Wynn, the Wynn Chandler, in your opening hand with the live discard. It doesn't matter what you discard, as long as it's a different name from the other ritual. Like, it can't be, like, let's say if you have Elder Hawk in hand and you would ditch the Hawk, you would have to search Rampengu and then do an Elder Pengu combo to get 4 searches. If you had like double Elder and like nothing else, then that would still be 3 searches. It needs to be a different name from the ones that your initial starting combo is going to be. Yeah, that's the basics of Ritual Beast pretty much. Like we went through the deck list. I'll show it off again once more. If the something is that's a big issue. The biggest issue with the Ritual Beast is also not being able to set up. So cards like Dogmatic Punishment are kind of awkward, but that's why I like having the ambushes. That's why the ambushes are great, because they allow you to continue to set up even afterwards, like after you get popped. And then, yeah, Triple Winda is also good for the sake of like those kind of games. Like, you can still grind with Winda's floating ability; it's still fine, right? If you get Nibiru at the wrong time, it can suck. But that's usually if you don't open up, like if you don't have an access to ambush. You can always like do your searches differently too. Like if you get your Kanahawk Veilered or something, that'll set up differently as well. This deck can play through Skill Drain. It's not the easiest though, because you still need to find a way to beat over the big threats that your opponents are presenting. But as long as you can keep search takeouts available, you can search Steeds, and Steeds can pop the monsters that are threatening you with Skill Drain. The deck can play under Skill Drain. It can also play Skill Drain as a result. Then you can focus on a more floodgated version as well. But personally, in my experience, this build here has been treating me the best. Technically, I could drop like a Pengu for like another like ambush, which honestly I might consider doing anyway, because like the biggest issue with opening the Elder Hawk combo is if you don't have Pengu in the deck. But if you don't have Pengu in the deck, it's in your hand, which means you have Elder Pengu combo. So that's an avenue you can go around too. Is like, you technically, that might actually be my next change. Is just dropping a Pengu just so we have ambush. But the thing is, it will make opening combos a little less consistent, but you'll be more protected when you do have the combos. But yeah, that's going to conclude the combo section. We've already talked about the deck, the tech choices. That's pretty much going to conclude what I would say is the introduction to Ritual Beast. I hope you all learned a lot, because there's a lot to take in. There's a lot of information, especially along on a deck that has so many neat little tips and tricks, especially a rogue deck that hasn't really seen competitive play in a long time, but it still can compete with the meta. Just the intro. Well, it's gonna be what we have for what we're gonna upload, at least for now. We covered the base a lot today, so I hope you all learned a lot with this. And yeah, hope you slay some fools with Ritual Beast Steeds. It's a great feeling. I'll tell you, it's a great feeling annihilating your opponent's board with Steeds. We've grinded through a lot of decks. Like, we have shown on stream and like in a lot of replays that we can beat Tri-Brigade, we can beat Eldritch, we can beat Strikers, we can beat like Zodiac. We've done that too. Like, we've beaten everything. Heroes get duked on by like Nibiru. Like, so many decks like Drytron, they pass in the face of Shifter. Like, these cards steal games, and if you just have combo to top it off, This deck can compete with the meta. It really can. It's not like the most consistent, but you can go toe-to-toe with meta decks easy. So yeah, guys, I hope you learned a lot. I hope you enjoyed. Obviously, the quality is not going to be the best because I can only stream at 480. But if you know the cards, then it shouldn't be a problem anyway, as long as you understand the information and the logic behind it, and like the whole deck building process, and why we play certain cards, why we don't play certain cards. This is Ritual Beast, and it's a fun deck to play. This build's a little bit pricey, but again, you can budget out a little bit on it. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for this video. So I hope you guys, yeah, it's a solid tier 7 deck. It's like I said, it can compete. It can compete. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned a lot. This and that. Wynn is the base, and you can't argue me on that. And have a good one, guys. Take care.